here with Tony Jacobs, and Tony has been in and around the youth ministry world for a long time, and he's here as a part of our YS coaching staff. Did y'all see the YS coaching area right up there? Cool. We offer, at NYWCs, we offer 40-minute free coaching sessions, and those things went like crazy. So I don't know if we have any spots left.
No, there's a waiting list right now.
There's a waiting list. So if somebody disappears in between now and the end of NYWC, you might get in. But Tony, I wanted to let you kind of share a little bit of your story about your history within youth ministry, and also your history within working with encouraging youth pastors. And then we'll jump into some practical questions.
Yeah, great. Hi, everybody. How's everybody? You guys having a good conference? Yeah, it's been amazing. So a little history for me. I've been doing youth ministry for the better part of 25 years. Started back I was playing guitar for a rock band out in Southern California many moons ago. And it was in those days we were playing all the dingy clubs in Hollywood, ministering to kids. I was just a kid myself. And that's where God started to break my heart for young people, you know. And my pastor at the time approached me and said, hey, would you like to take over the youth ministry just for the summer? And then in the fall, we're gonna hire somebody. You probably have heard that before, right? And that was 25 years ago. So youth ministry bit me hard, and here I am. Got into really a place in my life a few years back where I ran into probably one of the worst and hardest and brokest, darkest seasons of my life. And just everything that could have happened and could have fell apart did. And I remember we were in San Diego at this very event, National Youth Workers, and I'm sitting in the back row. And Tick Long gets up on stage and he talks and he says, how many of you guys showed up at this conference just completely broken on your last thread? And, you know, like if God doesn't show up this weekend, you could be out of, ministry altogether. I'm sitting in the back row and I stood up, of course, but so did 80% of the room. And I remember sitting there just going, what's going on here? There I was dealing with my own brokenness and trying to figure out what this was going to look like moving forward. And I remember saying to God, like, God, for myself and for everybody in this room, there needs to be a place where people can go and talk about what's going on in their lives and stuff. And so that set me down a path. God took me out of that season, healed me, and it took me on a path of really just having a lot of compassion, especially for youth workers, being a youth worker myself, and just kind of being somebody that cares deeply for every single one of you. And God giving me an opportunity to just kind of partner with people. You know, you guys, we need that sometimes. You know, we need somebody out of our network sometimes to confide in and to talk to, and just be a listening ear sometimes. And so through the course of a few years, I started a soul care ministry called Colliding Moments. And so that's exactly what Colliding Moments is. It's a coaching soul care thing where I get to partner with people from all walks of life, all denominations, all different types of ministry, and I get to walk and partner with them in good times and in broken times too. So
well, and the thing that I love about you, Tony, and that y'all can easily see just for a few minutes of chatting with him, is the way in which you love and care for all different types of youth workers. Yeah. And you talk a lot about soul care and self-awareness and the spiritual lives of youth workers individually. What does that mean? Like when you're sitting down with somebody in a coaching session, or you're talking with somebody over the phone that you can tell is struggling with this stuff, what sort of key things are you listening for? What red flags do you see? And how can we know if we're caught in that same sort of struggle?
Yeah. Well, you know what, you guys, and I don't know if that's everybody in the room. I just know this for me and in my past. I wasn't very good at taking care of who Tony was. I was so good at ministering to others and being present with teenagers and being present with so many other people that I forgot to really allow God to kind of fuel me up and allow me to be healthy and strong. And I allowed too many things to kind of take, priority in my life, and I shouldn't have. And over a course of time, those things started to kind of take root in my life. And before you know it, you're kind of in now this hard, dark place. And so when I sit down and talk with people, I immediately start to ask those kind of hard questions right out of the gate. How are you taking care of yourself? What season are you walking in right now? because the youth group and the youth ministry and all that kind of stuff's going to take that's going to take care of itself. But if we're not really feeding into our souls and who we are, we're not going to be very effective, and it could lead down to some really hard places in a person's life.
Yeah. So that makes me think about blind spots that I think we all have in youth ministry and our personal lives in general. And so maybe what are some blind spots that you know that are common, and how do we find them, and how do we help bring support into our lives to help us with those things?
I think one of the blind spots that really is just glaring, seems to be a common theme among a lot of people that I talk to, is the idea that I think for so many times, especially in churches, a lot of us get kind of put on pedestals a little bit, and the students do this. They look up to us. Our senior pastors, like, they've hired us to do these positions to minister to students. And I think so many times when we might be struggling with something in our own life, we're really afraid to just admit, like, hey, there's something deeply going on inside of my life, you know? And so people just kind of stuff it down. They kind of pretend like that doesn't exist in their life. And yet there are some real things. We're all human, let's be honest, right? You guys, life is hard, it's messy, you know? And sometimes we don't always have a safe place to go and talk about those things. Or if it's something that's super deep inside of us, we're afraid to even admit that, maybe to like our senior pastor, in fear of like we might lose our job, or they start questioning, well, are you even equipped to do ministry if you're in this place? And so what do? Well, we typically don't do anything about it. So we just have this repetitive, vicious cycle in our lives. So, yeah.
Well, give us some really practical keys to a balanced spiritual life as a youth worker. Because, I mean, we all know when it comes to pouring into other people's lives constantly, just when you feel like you've got a weekend where you can rest, you get a phone call. Or just when you're finally settling into bed, you get that text. And so how do you help find a balance and make sure that you're getting poured into and not overspending yourself?
I think, and not to sound cliche, you guys, but we really need to be better at creating healthy boundaries in our lives. We need to know when to put the phone down. We can't save the world. We're not all Mr. and Mrs. Incredible that we could just go and just stop. And I know all of you like think that you can be like that sometimes, and we want to do. We want to run to the crisis. We want to be that knight in shining armor. We want to save the day. You know, we do, because we care deeply about people. We care for teenagers, but we care for just people in general. But I think when we don't set healthy boundaries in our lives, it sets us up for a lot of failure. It really does. It's okay to say no, you guys. You know, it's okay to put the phone down, maybe not take the phone call, okay? You know, one of the questions I asked a lot, too, is, what do you guys like to do for fun? And I'll tell you what, it's amazing how many of you have told me that you don't really do a lot of fun things in your life. Like, your fun is the lock-ins and the things that you do for ministry. And I say, no, that's not what I'm talking about. What do you do for yourself to have fun? And a lot of people sometimes really have a difficult time answering that question. You got to learn to have fun, you guys. Life's too short, you know, and we got to get out there and we got to think about who we are sometimes. And we're so good about thinking about every other person in our life that we forget to just take time for who we are. And I know you guys have said that. I feel like sometimes I'm preaching to the choir, but just because you've heard it your whole life, it doesn't mean you're doing it in your life. And I know you're not doing it in your life sometimes, because I'm hearing the stories. I'm working with people that are just coming and saying, man, I don't know who I am. I've kind of lost my way. I don't know how to have fun. I don't have proper boundaries in my life. Ministry is everything to me, and I get that. I do. But you need to have an identity outside of your ministry. Who are you outside of what you do for a living? Who are you outside of what God's called you to do? And I know that's part of who you are, but if you can answer that, and I want you guys to answer that to yourselves right now, who are you, you know? And so.
Yeah. Well, and one other aspect that I love that's a part of your heart is the desire to connect people to one another, to be a support for each other. And so how do we do that going forward? You know, we know a lot of people have been talking about, especially with the NNYM booth, the YS Networks booth, we've been talking a lot about getting connected locally. But tangibly, how can we create that support system for one another moving forward?
Absolutely. I think you hit on one of the things. I think finding a network, you know, in your area that are some other youth workers where you can get connected to. I can't stress that enough, you guys. You know, the networks that I've been a part of, we didn't talk about youth ministry very often. We talked about our kids, our marriages, our life, just things like that. And so just being a part of a healthy network like that was just so instrumental in my own life. That's one thing that you can do. We also, just from YS, you can have a coach outside of this conference. We're doing these free sessions, but outside of that, if you felt like you needed a season of coaching in your life, that's something that YS is starting to do. So, and there's different ways that you can do that, where like you and I could just talk on a Skype interview, and we could just do some coaching one-on-one like that. You could even have a coach come and fly to your hometown and spend like an intense 36-hour weekend with you, just one-on-one, doing some coaching where we kind of evaluate everything from A to Z in your life and your ministry, and that's just really helpful, So moving forward, I would just encourage you guys to really consider a few of those things. Get a part of a network, and if there's no network in your area, create one. Partner with a couple youth workers and say, hey, coffee's on me next Thursday, and let's just go talk, and let's just see where we're at in life, and let it be a safe environment for you guys. And then as far as coaching goes, consider it, pray about it. It might be something that could really benefit you.
I love it. Well, Tony is one of those guys who loves hugs. He loves just seeing a good smiling face because he offers those back. He's going to be hanging out at the YS coaching booth if you want to go talk to him a little bit more. Tony, thank you so much. Let's give him a hand.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good being here.